And we are live. Hello, everybody. Happy holidays. This Q&A is a special holiday edition. Um, the only thing holiday-esque about it is the fact that I'm going to be giving you some tips about teaching over the holiday season, just to kick things off and just to start off. Yeah. You're, of course, welcome to ask any questions about iTalki or about teaching online or about teaching in general as you wish. But I just thought I would try to structure some of these Q&As just so that you kind of know what to expect, so that it's useful for people who aren't able to make it live. And that way you'll be able to, know what you're watching, for all of you who are watching after the fact. So I'm going to be sticking around for a while today. Last time I had a 2-hour Q&A and it went, well, not a 2-hour Q&A. Actually, I spoke for about 45 minutes and it was fantastic. I was very happy with the turnout. So thank you for everybody who came by and asked questions. It was really nice to kind of put as much of a face to a name as possible. Um, Today I'm going to be speaking for longer, 2 hours. I'll be hanging out. If nobody comes, I'll be doing some of my homework, finishing my last paper of the semester. But I'm happy to answer any of your questions. So let's kick things off. I'm going to start with just a few tips that I have for iTalki teachers who are teaching around the holidays. First of all, I think it's very important to be aware of other holidays, actually. Um, yeah, of course. I mean, there are other holidays. For example, a lot of my students are Russian. So a lot of them celebrate New Year's and they go hard for New Year's. They have great big celebrations for New Year's. I believe from what my students told me, it starts on New Year's Eve. Like that's when they actually get off work, on New Year's Eve, and they have like 2 weeks off. A lot of them, from what they tell me. So it's a big deal over there, right? So being aware of other holidays, I know some of my Ukrainian and Russian students have told me Orthodox Christmas is, I believe, on January 7th, and I should have checked that before I sat down and spoke about it. Um, yeah, so being aware of other holidays like Kwanzaa or Hanukkah around the holiday season is definitely very important. And also being aware that it may not be a holiday in some places. So if your schedule is open for your iTalki students, they may book on Christmas. Like last year, and even kind of this year, I was like, okay, I'll just like leave it open. No one's going to book on those days. They'll all be busy, right? But that's not the way it is. When I lived in Thailand, Christmas, believe me, they had a lot of decorations around Bangkok in the malls. We did a lot at the school, a lot of cultural celebrations. Um, I made a big speech in front of the whole school, and I was asked to do it the day before. So I was like, basically, the director of the school said to me, could you explain Christmas? Could you explain Christmas to the students, to all of the school, like literally maybe 4,000 people? There were people from the city who were there, politicians, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was so scared. I didn't even feel like I could explain Christmas to all of these Thai children. But yeah, well, it was fantastic. But yes, I was teaching on Christmas. I was teaching on Boxing Day. I was teaching on Christmas Eve, right? So being aware that other students may have other traditions, for example. Here, while I'm sharing these tips and tricks with you, I'm just going to kick things off in the chat here so everyone feels welcome. So I'll just go, ho, ho, ho. Hello, teacher friends. Give a little Santa Claus emoji. And um, when you come in, um, maybe comment your favorite animal. And I am going to comment a moose. I don't know if they have moose on here. Ah, they don't. Okay, they must have deer though. There we go. Happy days. Okay. All right, happy days. That'll get things going. So that's the first tip for all of you. Be aware that it may not be a holiday for some of your students. Be aware that some of your students may celebrate different holidays as well. Along the same lines, let your students know your schedule. This I'm actually very pleasantly surprised with how my students have been asking me what my schedule is going to be like, if it's going to change, if I'm even going to be teaching. Hello there. Hi, S or Sharif. Nice to see you. Yeah, so I have been very happy about how they are, invested in knowing if I'm going to be teaching, and they don't want to like step on my toes and um, book a lesson when it's supposed to be my holiday. So that's very thoughtful of my students, and that means the world to me. Hello, hello, everybody. Oh, Sasan. Okay, nice. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so I've been very happy about that. There's no reason why you can't just throw it out there, let your students know what your schedule is going to be. So when you're going to be teaching, when you're going to be available, when you won't be, right? This could also be a little kind of implicit push to get them to book a lesson with you as well, to like book ahead of time, book a few lessons for the new year as well. Again, I'm not big on marketing with my students and like trying to, sell my classes like I'm a salesman or something like that. But there is a little bit of an aspect to that on iTalki, especially when you're trying your hardest to get students and to get a steady stream of students, right? So if you could find an opportunity, find like an excuse, like, the holiday season where you could put it out there what your schedule is and when you're going to be available, when you're going to be free. This could make your students more inclined to book before other students do that. All right, so that's number two. Another tip that I have for you that I've seen other teachers do, sorry, is making a deal. Some teachers make a deal. They can make a deal for the holiday season, for example. They could say, um, they could post a lesson on their italki page, and instead of saying general English or IELTS English, it could just say holiday season discount package, right? And this could kind of push students to book some of those classes, book them up, right? um, yeah, so I actually did this last year for New Year's, right? And you'll notice some of what we're going to talk about today will have to do with New Year's as well as Christmas, right? Um, and yeah, last year I did one for New Year's. I put New Year's deal, kick off 2021 with the bang, and and actually I got to day 7 and I didn't get that many students, so I actually took it off, right? Um, and then I started getting a bunch of students, and one of the students that I got actually asked me. She said to me, "What about that deal? Why did you take it off?" Right? Well, why did you take it down from your page? So I was kind of caught up. So I ended up giving her a deal, right? But the point of this tip number 4 is to stick to your deal. So if you're going to make one of these deals, try to stick to it. The only situation where I would think it's okay to take it down early is like maybe if you get way too busy. But for me, I took it down because I just felt it was redundant because not too many students were booking. but actually there was a little bit of a delay, I guess. So instead of students booking right at the get-go, they were booking a little bit afterwards. And this may be in part due to the fact that a lot of my students are from Russia, and some of my students may have been on holiday at that time, right? So this kind of ties in with tip number one, to be aware other holidays, um, of the holidays in other countries. Yeah. All right. Happy days. And I think that's just about it. Yeah. So make a deal, stick to it, stick to your schedule as well, and tell students about your schedule. Definitely. Um, Yep, and be aware of other holidays. So those are all of the tips that I really have for you. Aside from that, it's never too early to start making New Year's resolutions, um, for for next year. It's funny, some of my students do not get this concept, and honestly, I'm not that big on New Year's resolutions either. But it can't hurt to set a few goals for yourself for the new year. So I know one of the goals that I set for myself last year was to develop a curriculum, develop some, more of a comprehensive plan, and that worked out perfectly for me. So, one thing that we could do today is to set a few goals for next year as well. Yeah. So, if I were to set a goal for next year, um, New Year's resolution, I'd say just tie up the loose ends with my curriculum. Tie up loose ends of curriculum. Yeah, because I have a lot in my curriculum, a lot of stuff, and I feel like there are some areas where I could kind of tie things up. Even recently made a video about teaching English for academic purposes, EAP. I want to develop that more. I've began teaching pronunciation classes. I've created a course, and I've actually bought a book for teaching pronunciation by Gerald Kelly. So I want to kind of get that going. Another New Year's resolution, I'd like to find out more about business English, right? So maybe take a course and maybe actually, buy a book or something like that. Yeah. So I'll put resolution. Oh God, I'm just going to be talking about all my drawbacks as a teacher. This whole thing. Well, at least we all know we're all human, right? So learn more about business English. Next next semester in January, in my master's degree, I'm taking a course about English for specific purposes. So that will be a great opportunity to learn more about that. So these are some different examples. Anybody who is here, you could feel free to put any resolutions um, into the box if there are any goals that you have for yourself as a teacher teaching on iTalki. Or if you agree with what I say, you could just throw a little thumbs up down there. Perfect. All right, great. Excellent stuff. While we're speaking today, if anybody ever has a question, feel free to just jump in. I could ask questions about everything and anything, especially those that are italki related. Nice. Perfect your teaching abilities. Geez, Louise, Sasan, that's quite a goal. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that for a long time, actually. Are there any specific ways that you want to improve your teaching ability? Like maybe it could be your grammatical knowledge. Like that's a common, the a, a teacher's use of terminology, the way they explain things. It could be the activities you have or the games you use with your students. In quotes. Okay, all right. Okay, gotcha. Fair enough. Awesome. Well, best of luck. I hope that that works out for you. Actually, speaking of activities, I would like to um, to develop kind of more games. I've actually recently gotten a job teaching English at a university or at a college here in Canada to college students. So I would definitely like to uh, find more activities to use with group students. So I'll put that as resolution three. Um, find more activities for groups. All right, and Sasen has a question. How do you handle students who know English but can't speak? Oh, geez Louise. Okay, so I have this one student from South Korea, and her reading and writing and listening is like here. It's very, very high, and her speaking is so much lower. And a lot of this just comes from the environment that they're in. In educational institutions, there's more focus on grammar, right? Um, so this is really, yeah, this has been very tricky with some students because it's like they have the vocabulary. So usually when a student is shy or a student is quiet, it's the vocabulary that seems to be the issue. But in this case, it's not actually the vocabulary. It's more so the processing and the ability for them to actually process this vocabulary and to use it, right? So one thing that I work on with my students is muscle memory, right? This is something called chunk-based learning. So it will be basically speaking and repeating what you're saying, but they will be, strings of sentences. So I mean, we could do this with idioms. For example, um, you know, this one is the most cliche idiom in the book, and I never use it, but I'll just say it right here. It's raining cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. So we will use this expression in a number of different sentences because what my student really needs, she has the vocabulary. She knows the words. She needs to be able to process them and develop that muscle memory to speak fluently. Sometimes there are other issues such as their confidence. Sometimes it just takes some time, Sasan, so she could build rapport with you. He or she could build rapport with you. So those are some things as well. Speaking about things that they're interested in, and then branching out. So if you have a student who's very shy, who doesn't speak a lot, I would definitely go for some core topics. If you want, you could check out this link right here, which has a this is what I use for IELTS actually, but just to get some core English topics is fantastic. It's my favorite IELTS resource, but it's good for speaking topics in general. They have 20 solid speaking topics right there, so you could go there, find some common topics and just use those with your students, and then branch out to more abstract topics. Hopefully that works. Okay, Silvana, do you learn how to develop a curriculum simply by yourself, or do you take some courses on that? Is my goal as well. Nice. Okay, excellent. Great stuff. Well, I know it sounds like I'm just so obsessed with curricula, and to a certain extent, too much of a bad thing is not good, right? So I don't want to really like beat a dead horse right here, but um, for me, it has been so useful with attracting students and keeping students on. How did I learn? Well, really, I began developing activities and worksheets 2 years ago. I went on this site called Teachers Pay Teachers, and I began making worksheets and selling them on there because I worked so hard at the school I was teaching to create these different assignments. Like I made a Game of Thrones assignment. I made like an Olympics debate assignment, and I created these assignments because I was teaching in Ireland at. It was kind of like a quasi summer camp, right? At the time, so I was trying to connect with the youth, right? So I was trying to make things relatable for them, and I worked so hard. So I was like, I'm going to sell this stuff online. So that's what I did. I started selling it online. So that was like the first base of me feeling like more, getting an idea of developing a curricula. Now, one thing that I did not like was setting learning objectives and setting can do statements. And if you don't know what learning objectives or can do statements are, um, like a learning objective is something that is supposed to trigger a linguistic ability, right? So, for example, it could be the objective is to be able to use modal verbs, right? A can do statement is how you could apply that in real life in certain situations. So it could be like, I could use modal verbs when I ask for, I don't know, when I um, when I go to the mall, when I go shopping, right? To be polite, something like that, right? So when I had my second job here in Toronto, I had to learn to use these, like the can-do statements, the learning objectives, and I thought it was just a bunch of baloney. I thought it was a waste of time because I was like, okay, the students are going to learn the thing anyway. So why do I have to write it out? I just didn't like the paperwork and the administrative aspect of it. So when I got to Carleton University last year, that's when I was in a university. I took my C-TESOL certification, and that's when I really began learning how to make can-do statements, how to make learning outcomes, right? And that was basically like what propelled me to actually make a curricula. So to answer your question, Silvana, I would say I had everything I needed. I had the creativity, I had the motivation, I had the resources to make a curricula, to make activities, to plan out a curricula. Like I did that in my second job as an ESL teacher in Toronto after I came back from Bangkok. So I had all of that, but I needed a way to make it digestible at an institutional level, to make it a little bit more polished, more pretty, and to make it more professional, basically. And that's where these learning outcomes come in. So when did I learn to do that? Last year during my CTESOL program. Um, so it's been quite a ride. I mean, I'm still learning as I go along. Now, as a teacher online, it's a whole different ball game because I'm trying to apply all this knowledge to online, right? So, how could I make the most out of YouTube, out of Facebook, out of Telegram, out of all of these tools online and incorporate those into the curriculum? Because who's kidding who? A lot of the research and a lot of the education you will get in TESOL or TEFL or TESOL will focus on classroom-based group learning, not on one-to-one iTalki online learning. Like it's completely different. So, I'm still learning as I go along, but basically last year when I was able to get through all that administrative stuff, that's when I was really able to grasp it, I think. Um, okay, so Saw-san said, meaning they can read. Okay, fantastic. That was helpful. Okay, excellent. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Can read, but their listening and speaking abilities are limited. Yep, definitely. And if you're looking for a resource to work on listening ability, definitely check out this one. You could use it. I use it for Italian, but you could use it for different languages. Yeah, so this is lyrics training. Yeah, so basically you listen to a song, you watch like a music video, and you write down the words that you hear. So that could be good for listening practice as well as speechling. Speechling is really good, and all this stuff is free. So it can't hurt, you know? Beautiful. Savannah. Thank you, that was helpful. Okay, awesome. I'm still sticking to course books. Good stuff. But I want to start creating more material on my own. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's smart the way that you're doing it because for me, I was always obsessed with reinventing the wheel, right? With being this progressive, revolutionary teacher of 2021 or whichever year it was, like I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to be that teacher I never had, and I'm going to make like awesome assignments that are very interesting. But I mean, there's a reason why we have textbooks, definitely. So it definitely doesn't hurt to use textbooks. I've had students ask me about textbooks before, especially when I first started. Um, I don't use textbooks on iTalki, but it's really good if you're able to follow along with the textbook and to use one. So Vanna, I have a question. Do you use course books for iTalki, or is this for something else outside of iTalki? Hello. Awesome. Off to class. Yes, I sure am familiar with off to class. Yeah, I haven't used it too much, but I'm familiar with it. Yeah. Some people in my courses have spoken about that. I had somebody message me on iTalki, another teacher, giving me resources for off to class. What do you think about it, Sasan? Is there do you have a review for people, or maybe a recommendation for people in terms of using off to class? Because that's one of the common ones that I hear of a lot. Check it out right here. I'm gonna get off to class, and I'm going to send it into the chat so everyone could see. Savannah is currently using course books on iTalki. Good stuff. I'm still on a university. Nice. Teaching German. That's awesome. That is awesome. That must be well, as a German student myself in the past, I could tell you that I've spent a lot of time looking for the right teacher. You know, there are less German teachers on iTalki than English teachers, but it seems like they're very in demand, right? So that could be a very good thing for you, but potentially, you know. Yeah, and there are certain concepts such as articles and prepositions, combined prepositions, which could be a little bit tricky for English speakers, for example, to understand. Okay, cool. Yeah, it gives you structure, definitely. I wish I could remember. What is that? What is that? Um, there's a website that I use. Oh, Breaking News English. That's right. Yeah. Breaking News English. I wonder, have you ever used Breaking News English, Sasa? Not trying to rain on your parade about off to class. I hear that it's awesome and it's very good. But this is another one, another option. Oh, sometimes I worry about boring my students with lots of slides. Oh, they have slides. Ooh, I am going to check this out. That's one thing. I'm going to put that as another New Year's resolution. Just to let everybody know, I'm not like giving up on this New Year's resolution idea. I'm going to have like 20 by the end of the class. Yeah, another resolution. I want to actually have slides that I use with students, kind of like a lecture style. I know it sounds boring. It sounds like a major eye roll, but just hear me out. I think that it could be interesting. It could be good to give it structure if I have just like maybe a 4 or 5 minute lecture at the beginning of lessons. Also, if there are slides, then students could, look at them afterwards. And for my students who are more academically inclined, they want to go into the the academic context, this could kind of prepare them for those situations too. So I'm going to say resolution 5, start using slides. All right, here comes Moosh. Hello, do you have any advice on how to improve a conversation class? Yeah, basically my whole YouTube channel is one big ball of advice for those types of things. When to give feedback at the end. Okay, that's awesome. So first of all, for improving your conversational lessons, yeah, one thing I do is make it student centered. So give your students options of which topics to speak about. That's one of the best things. Another thing is to implement flipped learning. And flipped learning is basically where instead of just going into the class and doing all the work in the class and then giving them homework afterwards, you give them something before class. So it may be an asynchronous activity. They could complete a quiz, they could watch a video, they could read an article, and then you discuss it in class. That's what I do, right? Now, I'm also not a very forgetful person, but I have a lot of students. So, what have I done to kind of circumvent this issue? Well, what I do, I get three topics. I actually have a document with 300 conversational topics. Each of them has a link of like an article that's associated with that topic, and I'll send them, a group of these three topics in the lesson before, right? So the next lesson, they've had a week to look at these topics to choose which one they want to speak about, to read about it, so it prepares them for the topic. So that's one thing, make it learner centered. Another thing, definitely explain exactly what it is, right? Some students are expecting general English in a conversational class. They're expecting you to do all these activities with them. If you want to do that, great. If not, then don't do it, right? But some activities you could do with your students just for like fluency development could be, explaining pictures or um, reiterating stories, for example. Yeah. Overall, I think that it's, controlled chaos. That's what conversational classes generally are. In terms of feedback, I typically use a Google Doc with my students. Actually, I always use a Google Doc with my students, and I just write down corrections as time goes on in the vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation columns. If I notice that certain mistakes are being made over and over again, I'll stop them and I'll tell them and I'll explain it to them. Um, yeah, at the end of class, I'll usually just kind of go over the things that they need to work on. So that could be useful as well, just to kind of like um, have an overview of the mistakes your students make. Another suggestion I have for you, Moosh, is definitely to incorporate positive feedback as well. Talk about the things that they're doing better. Um, if you're going to talk about if you're going to correct them and talk about the ways that they could improve, definitely talk about the ways that they have done better. They need that positive reinforcement as well. And also, if you are going to correct them, do not correct them unless if you give them a recommendation on how to improve, because their next question will always be, okay, so how do I improve this? So my grammar, like my use of irregular plurals is not improving. How do I improve that, right? So make sure that you have answers for them right there. Okay, Sasan has gone off to class. That's awesome. While we're chilling, I'll find you a few videos for you to check out on my channel. Um, Perfect. And I hope that this is useful for you. So I'll just type in conversation. Yeah, I have one about awkward silences, Moosh, so that might be useful. Check them out after. Oh, sweet. Okay. I have some people who I've had 10 plus lessons with, and sometimes it feels like we've covered all the interesting topics I could think of, articles. Yeah, isn't that wild? Like when I started on iTalki, I had the same thing. I would get through like, oh, Sven, welcome back. Nice to see you again. Awesome. That's cool. Um, yeah, it's so wild how you feel like you've covered all the interesting topics, right? And then it will just come to you. And what happened with me is that I sat down and I thought of this list of 300 topics, and some days I would just like I would have so many ideas and some days I'd have none, right? The trick of thinking about interesting topics is to go into more specific areas in general. So what I would start off with, I wouldn't start with something like animals. I would start with something like exotic animals or wild animals or I don't know. It could be a specific animal. It could be bears or the cat family or something. So go more specific into even a general topic. So some what are some common topics? Animals, food, transportation. So for food, you could talk instead of just talking about like maybe foreign cuisine, you could talk about fusion cuisine. That's one of the topics that I have, right? So you're taking a topic that is already quite, general, and you're going deeper into it. So that's one thing that you could do. And the other thing is just like pulling stuff out of out of the sky, basically. You know, yeah, I have all different kinds of topics like monarchies, language exchange, and card games, table games, funny hats. I literally have a topic called funny hats. So yeah, it's all over the place. All right, let's uh, let's check out some other weird topics I go through with my students. Yeah, the circus, scams. Oh, I love talking about scams with my students because scams are different in every country. Every country has their favorite pastime, scamming. The positive outcomes of COVID. So again, COVID, we're talking about it all the time. That might be a little bit repetitive. I try to avoid cliche topics like topical topics, like COVID in my classes. Not just because it's sad, um, and it's a little bit negative, but also due to the fact that it's just kind of it's cliche. I try to avoid cliche topics, but at the same time, these are things that your students know a lot about. These are things that are very relevant to your students. So for students who don't speak so much, like SASAM students, as she was saying before, it may be useful actually to talk about these kind of cliche topics. All right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Scabs, yeah, I've had a lot of fun with that one. Yeah, I mean, and then I have videos on my channel about like which kind of topics are offside, like controversial topics. Um, I have mental health here. I have hallucinogens. So you kind of have to read the room and see what your student is into and if they would be comfortable talking about these things. And again, that's another reason why it's good to give your students choices of which topic to discuss. Millennials guilt. Awesome. Oh, okay. So Moosh has been led into some pretty controversial topics by students. Strangely, yeah, making you more uncomfortable than the student. Interesting. Yeah, that could happen as well. And some students treat their teachers like punching bags. They just want to kind of um, release, like anxiety or stress by kind of venting to you, right? I had a student. I'm not going to say where she was from, but she was kind of angry with the way that her country was being portrayed in the media in my country. So I'll leave it as like broad as that. And yeah, I could say that I was kind of like her punching bag in the sense that she wanted to talk about these topics, and clearly I was the straw man for her, right? She just kind of wanted to, you know, uh, let loose and complain about all of these things and to complain about my country. So you will have some students like that, right? And then you have two choices. You could either tell them, calmly and civilly, like that you don't want to talk about this and shut down the conversation, or you keep the ball rolling and you keep the conversation flowing, and honestly, that's what I did. Um, yeah, but it depends on the person. I had someone trying to explain the history of a certain religious war, woo, which I would rather avoid, yeah, of course, made for a very uncomfortable time. Any tips on something like that? Well, for me, like, I'm not a very confrontational person. Like sometimes I have to be with my students, especially with if they're interrupting me or if they're showing up late or if they're trying to eat during class, for example. But when it comes to topics, first of all, not a lot of things make me feel uncomfortable. Like the topic in and of itself doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. It's kind of like the way that like the angle that the student is taking or the angle that I could be taking in that situation with controversial subjects. So, what I like to do is keep the ball rolling, and I would suggest trying to branch out or to morph this discussion into another discussion. So if they're talking about religious war, you could just play dumb and just like whichever country they're speaking about. I don't know which country you're referring to. Let's assume it was Canada because that's where I'm from. Um, then you could just say, yeah, actually, I went to Canada once, and I went to a museum, blah 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 blah, and just try to go off onto another tangent, change the subject if you're feeling uncomfortable about it. But hey, everybody has their own style, and I'm not here to tell you how to teach, especially in situations like this. These are critical incidents. Every teacher is going to have their own, approach to it. But my approach would be just to kind of keep the ball rolling because the goal of the class for me is to improve my students' English, hopefully to improve our relationship and have a good time, improve their relationship with English, right? Um, and I know I've been that guy who has brought up controversial topics in lessons with my foreign language teachers, but we've kind of spoken about this and established the parameters beforehand. Hello, new mod. Nice to see you. I lost that student. Yeah, well, same with me actually, Moosh. Like this student who I was talking about, who we like, they weren't happy about how their country was being depicted by the media in my country. Yeah, like I stood firmly with my beliefs, and yeah, I actually ended up losing that student as well. You know. Hello, Maud. My day has been fabulous. Fabulous and festive. How about yours? How has your day been? Have you taught any classes on iTalki? Has anybody taught a class today? I have taught. Actually, I haven't taught any. I haven't taught any. Yesterday I taught 8. Today is my day off. That's why I am here with all of you. I take every Saturday off. Next Saturday, I'll be opening presents and giving presents to my family. Yeah, so yeah, I'm going to be taking off most of Christmas Eve, all of Christmas Day, and part of Boxing Day. And then I'll be taking off part of New Year's Eve and all of New Year's. That's my plan for the holiday. Maud teaches Korean to English speakers. Nice stuff, Maud. That's cool. Could you share your italki profile with us? If you're Hello, Pedro. How are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, if anybody feels comfortable sharing their italki profile, feel free to throw it down here because there may be students checking the Q&A out who want to book a lesson in your language. So this is your chance. Advertise yourself. Nice. Moosh takes weekends off. Nice. May have to add some hours as my new student numbers. Yeah. Yeah, it's been quite low recently, eh? Only my loyal regulars. Yeah, well, that's why we have loyal students. That's why it's so important to build that rapport, right? They really stick with you. They really do, like especially younger learners, I'd say. Like if learners really like you and they're younger and their parents see that, they will really invest a lot into your classes. Hello, Elena or Elena. How are you? Oh, it's evening. Yes, good evening for you. It's morning for us. It's I don't know if you could see that. Yeah, it's nice and snowy outside on the farm here. We'll have a white Christmas, I hope. Awesome. Yeah, yeah. So, yep, it's definitely not the busiest time of the year in December, but who knows? This could be a great opportunity for teachers to get new students over the holidays. There's no snow there yet. Where do you live? Where are you from, Elena? I guess Greece, but I don't know. Okay. All right. Cool. Excellent stuff. Yeah. No snow there yet. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping we get some more snow so I could go tobogganing. Okay. Mod is not an iTalki. I see. It's in person. Uh, who just moved to Korea? That's interesting. Wow. I found okay, excellent, good stuff. Well, I hope you follow through. That's excellent. I hope that my tips are helpful for you. Yeah, that's brilliant. So, do you teach well, I guess you teach people who just moved to Korea. Okay, fair enough. And Moose says no snow in England, usually not until January. Yeah, that's right. You've never seen a white Christmas. Jeez Louise. My dad is from England. He is from Essex in yeah, I guess it's like southeastern England. So we go there growing up. My sister lives in Belfast in Northern Ireland, and last year I remember they got some snow, and they actually got like cardboard and made little toboggans to go down the hill. Um, yeah, because like they don't have toboggans over there, or else they weren't able to get their at least they weren't able to get their hands on any toboggans or sleds, as they call it. Oh, you're from Sussex. Okay, excellent. Good stuff. Sweet. Yeah, yeah. I spent Christmas in England a couple years ago. It was beautiful over there in London. But I'd say the most beautiful place I've been around the holidays has been, probably Brussels in Belgium. It was just absolutely stunning. Alright, good stuff. So, as we're speaking today okay, happy days. Pedro, great question. You know what? Okay, this is a weird way to start this, but I'm very transparent with my subscribers. You know what? I've never met any of my students in person. Actually, like I've had hundreds of students, and some of my students I've spoken to for hours, and I've never met them. And sometimes I've thought, what would it be like actually meeting them? You know, you speak to them so much that it feels like they are there, right? Like they're there in front of you, and you build these fantastic relationships with them as well. And it makes you feel very like you really know them, right? And actually, I had a dream where I met one of my students. He's a student from Central America, and yeah, for some reason, it was my girlfriend and I, or my fiance and I, and him and his wife. And I've never met his wife before, so this is just from talking to them so much online. And this happened with another one of my students as well. And I told him about it. I said, I had a dream that we met in a cafe and we just spoke for hours, right? Um, I don't know about you guys, but that's happened to me before where I'm like, I get a new job and I'm working so much that like I'll dream about my job. But this happened back in the pandemic, right? Back in the lockdown, and I've seen that a lot of people had kind of bizarre dreams during the lockdown. Would you like to do it? Because I'd love it. Yeah, like totally. It would be kind of like I'd feel a little bit of to be honest with you, I'd feel a little bit of pressure because you build up your like I know my student through the screen. That's how I know them. So it's like the second that I see them in real life, like it's real, right? Like I would just feel completely like vulnerable, right? Like the computer screen in a way it's really distorting social dynamics in a way, even though it's bringing people closer together, or at least I feel this way. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I would almost be vulnerable, but what's the difference between that and teaching students in person, like in real life, as I had done in Thailand and in Toronto and in Ireland? What's the difference, right? I think it's because I'm more familiar with my students and I have more of like a, with some of them, I would just call them my friend. Like sometimes I forget they're even my student because basically I'm just a language partner who listens to them speak and gives them obviously, I have the communicative style that they like. A lot of my students like my voice. They say that my voice is clear, so they understand me. A lot of my students like, that I'm from Canada, or that, some of my students just prefer to learn with a male teacher, right? There are all different kinds of, things there, right? So, yeah, some of my students I do consider, pretty much like friends, right? So, would I like to see them? Absolutely. But gosh, it's gonna be weird when that happens one day. I need to get over that hump, Pedro. I have to just, like, bite the bullet and, do it one day. But in fairness, not many of them live in Canada. A lot of them want to come to Canada. Maybe they'll be here one day, but they haven't moved yet. Okay, so Maud says that her English students in Korea are usually 16 and up. You teach students who are foreign exchange students, and adults who need help with certain words for work. Great stuff. Excellent. Well, that sounds like fantastic experience. And I think iTalki would be lucky to have you if you try to apply to iTalki. I'm actually curious how many Korean teachers are on iTalki. Let's check. Okay, Korean. 400. Okay, fair enough. 400. I always found that the Korean alphabet was, of all the non-Roman alphabets I've learned, it was the easiest to learn. It's very, like, logical, for some reason. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Well, yeah, sign up and maybe I'll take a lesson with you one day, Maud. You could teach me some of these work words. Right. Moosh says that he has had a few invitations, pretty awesome, even though I know I'll likely. Yeah. Why? Why wouldn't you take them up? Like, don't get me wrong, it's the same with me. For anyone tuning in right now, we're talking about meeting with our friends, our students in real life, right? Okay, to visit their country. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, if I do go to Russia, actually, no. Like, if I went to Moscow, I probably would message most of my students and meet up with them. We'd have like a big party. It would feel like a welcome home party because yeah, I know so many students over there. Okay, Pedro has European teachers and students that would definitely like to meet up. My trip to Europe. Your trip to Europe. Oh, where are you from, Pedro? Which country? Would be amazing. Yeah, would be amazing for sure. Which countries in Europe are they from, by the way? I have a phone call. Okay, Moosh, thanks for stopping by. Have a great day. And yeah, from Tilsonburg to Sussex, I hope that you have an awesome start to your 2022. Yeah, Russia is very good. Do you have any students from Russia, Maud? Oh, you do? Okay, that's cool. Excellent stuff. I wonder if they're from a lot. Okay, and they're, like, moving to Korea. I wonder if they're from, like, Siberia, like, Eastern Russia or, wow. I didn't know so many Russian people moved there. 60% are from Russia. Wow, I'd say the same, for me, teaching English. It's really cool. Ah, that's right, Pedro, you're from Brazil, that's right. Okay. Fantastic. Well, there's probably just as I wouldn't say just as good a chance, but it's likely enough that they would end up being in your country one day. So maybe you could meet up with them when they come over to your country. It depends where you live in Brazil. It's a big enough country at the end of the day. But yeah, if not, hopefully you can meet up with some of them when you head on over to Europe. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like when I lived in Ireland, I did have some students who were living in Ireland as well. So I mean, but it felt so far away, even though it was just like a 2 hour bus ride or 3 hour bus ride. Elena. Okay, Elena, no problem at all. Thank you for stopping by. It was great chatting to you today. It's been great chatting to all of you. Yeah, I guess it's almost 11 o'clock, so some people are going over, going to class. Some people are teaching classes. That's fine. You could hop out, hop back in whenever you have time. I'm probably going to go make a tea myself. So I'll stick around for another 5 minutes until the hour mark, and then I'll take a wee break. Mhm. I'm going to change the name of this. iTalki Teacher Christmas Season Q&A. It's good. Yeah, so Mode says there's a lot of Russian students because it's easy to expand your jobs if you're foreign because Koreans love foreign people. Oh, well, that's nice. That's excellent. Good stuff. And how did you learn English, Maud? Did you learn at school or have you been abroad to learn? Wow, so that is well, I'm happy to see all of these people getting classes. That's excellent. And you're sticking around till three minutes before. Well, thank you, Silvana, for stopping by. I'm yeah, I'm happy to see that so many people have classes because again, I hear a lot about people not getting enough students on italki, so it's really nice to hear that people are having success on the platform. Do, 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 do. Okay, cool, you studied in an English school. That's awesome. Great stuff. But yeah, a lot of my so after Russian students, Korean students, no, Brazilian students are probably the next most popular, and then Korean students. And a lot of my students I find enjoy the one-to-one lessons, it's less formal, I suppose. Doo, doo, doo. All right, great. Well, I'm going to pop out for a few minutes. So I'm going to end this stream right here, and then I'll be starting a stream in 15 minutes. If anybody is teaching, then go ahead, have a great class. I hope you learned something. I hope you make some money. And I'll be starting a new stream in 15 minutes. So just come back to the channel in 15. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right. Okay, Maud. All the best. How old are you? All right, Sven. Yeah, well, we could do this. We could do this. I know I just shaved my beard, so I might look a little bit younger. Well, I want people to guess how old they think I am, and I'll tell you if I'm older or younger. So Sven could start off with his kitty emoji. I hope you don't break my heart with this guess. 23. Okay, I'm older than 23, but thank you. A few years from now, I'm going to be taking that as a compliment. 25, even closer. And Pedro thinks I'm 30. All right. I'm actually 20. Ah, well done, Sven. I'm 26. I turned 26 just a week and a half ago on December 7th. Yeah, so yeah, that's right. Oh, so yeah, I'm 26 mod. That's right. Some of my students are a little. I think some of my students are a little bit intimidated by my age, right? Because some students ask me my age, and they're very surprised. They think that I'm older, in fact, um, than I actually am. And some students have asked me my age, and then they don't book another class. It might be linked to my age, or it might not be. Um, but I'm sure that some people don't like necessarily learning with people who are younger, and I think this is one of the good things on iTalki. You don't have to say your age, like, I don't think students know what your age is, so it's kinda just like a guess, it's up in the air, but, yeah, I don't know if anybody else has had experiences like, when I was teaching at a university in Ireland, I was teaching IELTS preparation, and I showed up for the first day, and this girl from Turkey was just like, "Are you the assistant?" Like, "Are you the teacher assistant?" And I was, 23 at the time, so I was just, Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Sven. I appreciate that. Alright, so everybody who stopped by, thank you very much. I'll be starting another stream in about, 10, 15 minutes. Just gonna get a cup of tea. So, grab a hot drink and meet me back in 10 minutes. I'll see you soon.